Public Q&A presents Ask Reddit question. Nurses of Reddit, what's the most entertaining thing someone has said coming off of anesthesia? A man asked me if his body parts still belong to him, and I still think about it LMAO. When they took out my wisdom teeth, and my other fucked up tooth, they didn't give them back to me, so I guess they aren't mine anymore. I asked for mine, got a strange look, but they gave me my teeth. The teeth still had some gum tissue on them, and 2 were sawn in half. When I was 8, I had my appendix removed, and I remember asking if I could keep it after the operation. I was pretty annoyed when they said no. I am only now contemplating the place where surgeons put appendices after removing them. They're catalogued in order of appearance: Appendix A, Appendix B, Appendix C. Probably wanted to make sure kidneys coming in equaled kidneys coming out. Edit. Almost everyone thinks I am talking about kidney transplants. I am not. I am talking about stealing kidneys. Kidney equilibrium. It's kidnequilibrium. I consider it a valid question since I also fear organ racket. A 15-year-old was waking up and talking more. And trying to get out of bed before he was ready. Bud, where are you going? I have got to go to my locker. Buddy, you're in the hospital. You can't go to your locker right now. So where are you trying to go? Serious expression. The future. Female patient after C-section asking me how many chickens she had, because she had beef with pig. Her husband translated later. How much the baby weighed, because I have a bet with hubby. How sweet that the husband understood her nonsense so effortlessly. I work in the OR. Funniest was a guy quickly sat straight up after extubation. We're all standing around him making sure he doesn't try to jump off the table. He looks at me and then slowly gives me double finger guns. Turns his head to another staff member and slowly gives them finger guns. Didn't say a word, just finger guns. A lot of people wake up really crazy, they start swinging, or just get really restless on a narrow or bed. It's nice when people wake up sleepy, and I'll just bundle them up with blankies and roll out. So waking up aggressively is somewhat common then. My husband woke up during a gallbladder surgery, and instantly grabbed one of the surgeons by the throat. Apparently the anesthesiologist had to give him enough to drop him like an elephant. There was an awkward follow-up appointment. Yeah, it happens, I wouldn't worry about it. He should just disclose that whenever he needs surgery in the future so the staff can take extra precautions, keep safety straps on, and have extra people available. Usually if I have a patient that I don't think I could hold down myself, I keep them strapped in until people are around to help. Is it common to start crying and babbling for your parents even though you're grown up? I did it right after waking up from surgery, and I am sorry for the nurse which had to deal with me. Yes, some people can be like that. When I got my wisdom teeth out under sedation, I woke up crying too. Surgery and anesthesia is a very bizarre experience. I am sure it's overwhelming as all hell. ER tech here. We often do conscious sedations with ketamine to realign broken bones. I had a 10-year-old girl who snapped her arm on the trampoline. When she was coming out of the ketamine slumber, she asked why she saw God. Little freaky. She also snarfed down for PB&J sandwiches after, and I was impressed. The best has to be the sledding accident kid who snapped his tibia. When he was coming out of the ketamine sleep, he kept begging us not to tell his mom he smoked weed for the first time the day before. His mom was in the room while this was taking place. What did the mom do? Railed a fatty line of ketamine. LMAO, and one for the doctor. She laughed. I guess he tried to cover up the smell with Axe, and she knew right away. We had to slide board a patient from the stretcher to his bed after an endoscopy. You put a board between bed and stretcher and then grab patient and slide them over to bed with sheet underneath them. My patient screamed "wee," and then proceeded to tell us that these are the best drugs ever, and that it felt like the 60s again. This gave me joy to read, haha. When I was doing my ER clinicals, we had a guy who was on something. I wasn't really there, so I am not sure what, but we had to put a catheter in, and I was just there to assist, or watch mostly, but as we put the catheter in he looked right at me and said, "This feels just like my first time." There are so many things he could have meant. I don't want to know which it was. When I got my wisdom teeth out, the nurse was trying to wake me up and said, "Okay, it's time to open your eyes. Can you open your eyes for me?" I said, "Say please." She said please very nicely, and I opened my mouth as wide as I could. This reads like a John Mulaney joke, and I love it. And then the nurse told him to say, "I am a little fat girl. A little fat girl with feminine hips." No. That's the thing he's sensitive about. That made me giggle. Woke up thinking I'd had sex with my doctor. And apologized to him for how bad it was. Well. Sounds like a decent starting for a porno story. BTW, what was your doctor's reaction? Well, I fell back asleep again, so thankfully, I didn't have to endure a reaction. After you passed out, he was probably swearing up and down to the nurses that he really doesn't know you. F. A friend of mine woke up after surgery and stated, "I want to eat a Christmas tree." Easier ways to increase fiber intake. Maybe he was just craving vitamin C. When I was in high school, I was just getting put under and feeling loopy for a wisdom teeth operation, and the nurse was making small talk with me and told me she graduated from the same high school I went to and was on the dance team. And I told her, "No, you weren't. You have to be pretty to be on the dance team right before blacking out." I think about this sometimes before I go to sleep at night. Nurse, I am so sorry to do you like that when you were just doing your job. I have been on this thread for like 15 minutes, and this is the most savage comment I have seen. I feel like I am going to hell for laughing. It was so bad, and I mean this nurse was like perfectly normal looking. The only way out is to wake up and tell her she's the prettiest girl on the dance team. LMFAO, as a nurse who was on dance team in high school, I would 100% laugh if my patient said that to me. I'm definitely not as thin and pretty as I was in high school, so fucking Pharaoh flow. I had a male patient who, as he woke up, mumbled, "I am not pregnant." I hope I say some stupid shit when I go under for wisdom teeth removal, LOL. I am pregnant. Preganti. Pergonant. Pregonant. Pregnate. Starch masks. Period ? I opted for just nitrous for mine rather than being put all the way under. Pretty sure they forgot to turn it on, because I seemed very alert, and was definitely not saying funny things. Was he sad or relieved? Just very surprised. Guy wakes up in the recovery room after left knee replacement surgery and starts talking with his wife. "Well, at least I still have 2 good knees." "Oh honey," she replied, "you just had knee surg." He interrupts in a loud voice, "My right knee and my weenie." LMAO. Ah yes, the third leg strategy. Did a short stint in recovery as part of my graduate program. I got proposed to a couple of times. Same guy would walk past me in the corridor a day later and not recognize me. How rude. Proposes and then ignores you just because he didn't like your reply. P. Did you ever say yes? Haha no. Supposedly it's ill-advised to make life-altering decisions with 24 hours of an anesthetic. I guess getting engaged falls in that category. I see no issue. My brother got his wisdom teeth out not too long ago. When he woke up, he started laughing a lot, like he wasn't laughing super hard, but he was laughing for super long, and it almost sounded monotone. After a couple minutes of just flatline laughter, he stopped and mumbled chicken like it's what he was laughing at. Don't know why, but it stopped him from laughing for a bit. Fuck, now I am laughing at the word chicken. Chicken. Not a nurse, but I had dental surgery at a hospital in Bangkok a few years ago. I had pretty much come out of anesthesia, and was just waiting for the doctor and discharge stuff. There was this giant Aussie guy also in recovery, and he kept trying to sneak away. Like he'd look around, grab his forepaw, and tiptoe toward the exit. The nurses were just kind of herding him around the room back to his bed. Then he'd do the same thing again. The nurse with me asked if I wanted the curtains closed, and I was like, hell no. I just had major oral surgery, and this is funny. So she and I sat there for nearly 20 minutes watching his shenanigans. Nurses have patience like saints, I swear. This is truly hilarious. It was the very best part about a harrowing oral surgery experience. He's so sneaky. I once told the nurses to stop. I wasn't asleep yet. I wasn't ready. They laughed and said they were done. Another time I came out saying sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joy has nuts, mounds don't. No clue why I was singing this, but the nurses thought I was hilarious and let family know this happened. Had that for a wisdom tooth removal. Woke up, asked when they were putting me out, they said I was done. I then sat up and felt like the fun part of a week-long bender. Not anesthesia but post-op in ICU. PT had brain surgery for a neuroma. He had a brain drain in but otherwise was fine. Me. Hi sir, I have your dinner, do you need help? PT nah, I can do it. What is it? Me. White fish. PT ugh. Me. It's brain food. PT. If that's the case, I need a whale. I laughed for 2 hours after that. It wasn't something he said, but I had a patient in his 50s attempt to motorboat his wife when she came to pick him up. She was mortified, and I managed to keep a straight face while giving her all his post-op instructions. This sounds like something my husband would do, face with tears of joy. Also not a nurse, but I had ankle surgery last year. They gave me animal crackers after, and I remember being really upset that I didn't realize until the last cracker that I forgot to look at the animals and appreciate each one. One does not simply eat animal crackers without acknowledging which animal they are about to eat. But in your case, I think you had a good excuse. It was such a missed opportunity, and I still have regrets, lol. It's okay, you always have the other ankle. I play roller derby, so it's a strong possibility. That sounds like me drugged up for surgery. I was so sad that while I would seen so many birds on the way to the oral surgeon, but I didn't learn any of their names. Imagine if all of humanity was like that all the time. But what was the last animal cracker? A lonely camel. I came out of it in the middle of a conversation with Gandalf. I was trying to sell him Tupperware. You sir have made me laugh for 5 minutes straight. Face with tears of joy. So, did he buy your Tupperware? You've seen the way those hobbits wrap their cheese. They are lovely folk, but if they tried to wrap lembas you'd have a leaf full of crumbs by the prancing pony. No, Mr. Gandalf, a traveling wizard like yourself needs something hearty. And you're in luck, I am willing to trade for some of your wonderful sky flowers. Though my wife has insisted she be here to hear the exact instructions on the Dragony one. Yes. Not a nurse. My wife woke up from a surgery and started pointing into the middle of the room, and in a soft voice said fuck you and you. What is that smell? She then looked over at me and says when did you get here ya asshat lol she doesn't cuss much, so I got a good laugh out of it. Ya asshat. Kind of long sorry. I worked in an ER, and we had a patient guy about 18 to 20 years old who had a spontaneous pneumothorax collapsed lung. Not quite as bad as it sounds, he basically had a small area of air between his lung and chest wall. We had to put in a small chest tube to remove the air. We did a moderate sedation, basically kind of knock him out, but not put him completely under. One of the meds used was Versed, which has an amnesic effect so they don't remember anything. Procedure is done, and I am monitoring him when he starts coming around. He looks at me and asks, so, when are we going to do this thing? I said, we're already done. Look at your chest, had a drain or dressing in place. He looks down, then looks at me and says, Dude. How'd you do that? Maybe not the best story here, but it happened 20 plus years ago, and it still makes me laugh. Patient here with a great story nonetheless. When I got my wisdom teeth removed, I apparently had a religious experience. I'm agnostic, smiling face with open mouth and cold sweat. I told my mom, who was with me, that I saw people walking on water. Next, I kept telling her that I saw Jesus. Apparently, when the female nurse came back into the room, I did the Catholic sign of the cross and whispered to my mom, that's him. That's Jesus. The nurse lost her shit. That's funny as hell. LMAO, thank you. My family and friends still talk about it several years later. This made me genuinely laugh, not just chuckle. Thank you. Backstory. My grandmother desperately needed a hip replacement. She didn't want the surgery, but it had reached the point where my grandfather couldn't care for her unless she got it, and had to give her the ultimatum to either have the surgery or move into assisted living, something she absolutely did not want. She had some onset of dementia, so everyone was extremely worried about what the anesthesia would do to her mental condition. After surgery, they were asking her questions to see if the anesthesia had affected her cognitive functions. My grandfather asked, "Do you know who I am?" And her response was, "You're the dirty rotten little and so who did this to me," as she pointed at her leg. Oh, she had also named both her stuffed cat and her cane George. Anyone else she didn't immediately recognize by name, while the anesthesia wore off, was also dubbed George. There is nobody in our family named George. Actually, it sounds like there are a lot of people in your family named George. Not a nurse, but my twin sister started speaking fluent Spanish to my mom after she woke up from getting her wisdom teeth removed. We're half Puerto Rican on our mom's side, so we've grown up hearing Spanish, but neither of us had ever carried a fluent conversation with her in it. But apparently my doped-up sister could. NGL, I took Spanish in high school, and when I am drunk I can carry on full conversations. Sober, not so much. My German is so much better drunk. I think it's 'cause you don't overthink as much. My German is so much better drunk. Try your hand at Russian. Russian is tough as hell. Sober, drunk just comes out as war garble for me. You mean you think you can carry on a conversation? Once when drunk I thought I was speaking perfect French. But then I saw the video, and I sounded like I was gargling mayonnaise. That's just what French sounds like. A lot of being fluent in a language is confidence. So could be he was speaking fine drunk, but was too nervous to make a mistake sober. It's weird how the mind thinks. For me it took until I could start thinking in Spanish to speak well. I make mistakes but a lot better. Looking back, when I was young I only spoke Spanish when I stopped thinking about every word I was going to say. Patient here went on a long rant about how Bugs Bunny appeared in my dreams and told me lies. No idea how my brain came up with that one. Did you fancy up my dick a lil bit, said to me the post-op RN after patient's vasectomy. Put under for a vasectomy. I was wide awake for mine and actually watched the thing go down, lol. Local anesthesia is all that's needed. My clinic specialized in general anesthetic vasectomies, amongst other GA fertility procedures. Yes, you can get it done fully awake with a local. These dudes elected to be knocked the fuck out. Generally we got the sookier dudes. One dude we had to cover in EMLA numbing cream, because he was scared of the cannula insertion. I was wide awake for mine and actually watched the thing go down. General anesthesia, have been what was wanted. Me coming out of it at the dentist's office. Me. You have to save them. Dentist. Save who? Me. The owls. Dentist. What owls? Me. The owls trapped inside the gas machine. They were hooting, I could hear them. You have to save them. Did the dentist save them? Not a nurse, but was in charge of my sister after she got her wisdom teeth out. Got her in the car and she was bawling. Wouldn't stop crying and trying to put her fingers in her mouth. Mind you, she was 20 at the time. I got her back to my apartment, and she's having a hard time staying upright, so I am helping support her as we walk up to the door. She's still crying, but is now trying to do a heel click. We almost fall over. My neighbor sees us and runs over to help open my door. We get her inside. She then proceeds to spend another hour crying about how she wants to write a Harry Potter or Pride and Prejudice crossover ballet, in which she would play Dumbledore, Lizzie Bennet, and Mr. Darcy herself. I then asked her who I would play. She said Hedwig and Mr. Collins. That's when it stopped being entertaining. Edit. Thank you for my first Reddit award. I then asked her who I would play. She said Hedwig and Mr. Collins. That's when it stopped being entertaining. Hedwig is an honor to play SMDH. Mr. Collins sounds like she thinks you need to confess and make amends, lol. Mr. Collins. I don't blame you. I was coming out of anesthesia, and the nurses in the recovery room were all poking fun at each other about which Hogwarts house they would be in. Me. According to my ex-wife, I am a house elf. Ex-wife, obviously, she gave you a sock at some point. Flight 19 Navigator is free. Not yet, but negotiations are continuing. Hope you are cleared for landing soon. Some turbulence ahead, but skies are clearing. And through the haze of drugs divine, he woke and spoke a single line, a single phrase to phase and shock. He cried, excited. Dobby's sock. At the dentist I woke up like a shot from anesthesia, got up and ran through the office. Dental assistants chasing me. I ran to the washroom still drugged up, looked into the mirror, and while pawing my numb face, said I need to make sure I don't look like Joan Rivers. Had my appendix out, and according to my wife the doctor came around with a bunch of student doctors and pulled my gown to the side to show the keyhole scars. Now the bottom one is below the pants line, and I wasn't wearing underwear, and apparently I said don't act like you're not impressed, then closed my eyes. They all had a good laugh. My wife was mortified, and I was sound asleep, still hear about it from her almost 10 years later. Obligatory not a nurse, but a friend of mine said that one of her patients was convinced he was a burrito and needed her to sprinkle cilantro on him. Edit. OMG, my first gold. Thank you. Answering as someone coming off of anesthesia while in the middle of surgery. I tried a dog biscuit too. In response to my surgeon telling his colleague how he had to eat a dog biscuit while pledging. Another time I squeaked like a dolphin while in the middle of surgery. Kind of weird, I remember doing it and my surgeon was freaked out that I knew I did it. I don't know why, but the dolphin part has me laughing hysterically, rolling on the floor laughing. Middle-aged woman with obvious surgical enhancements coming off of anesthesia from a diagnostic procedure. I was listening to her lungs with my stethoscope and told her, all right, nice big breaths. She said thanks, I just got them done. It was so hard to compose myself, haha, now I say deep breaths. Ha ha ha, this is the first one to make me laugh out loud. Not a nurse, but when I got all 4 of my wisdom teeth out at once, I woke up and immediately asked, can I eat KFC now? And they all got a laugh out of that. That was the only thing I cared about. Probably not as entertaining as I hoped, but I got a laugh out of them, so yay. Edit. I just noticed some wording issues. Also yes, I did get KFC after. Just a large mashed potato and mac and cheese. Took me 3 days to finish it all though. Was told it was fine as long as I was careful about my stitches. After having my wisdom teeth out, I proudly declared that I was a penguin. When I had mine out, I immediately asked what time it was. They replied it was only like an hour after I would been put out, and I was like, damn, you guys are good, ha ha ha. My grandmother gets very angry when she comes out of anesthesia and swears everyone abused her during surgery. The night after her hip surgery and lots of angry accusations, and having to be tied to the bed for a good portion of the day, I spent the night with her at the hospital. She had a confusing and restless night, and was in a lot of pain, but very out of it. The next day, the doctor came in to talk to her about being moved to the rehab center. She started ranting about how it better not be the same place she slept last night, because they made her sleep on the concrete floor of a barn. Everyone tried reasoning with her, but she would just point at me and say, ask that girl. She was there. After a few minutes of increasingly agitated ranting, I just said, it's a different place, nanny. And that settled that. Not a nurse, but I underwent a procedure, and had to be put under anesthesia. According to my dad, who was in the room, the doctor asked me how I was feeling, and I said to him, I feel like shit. Can I go back to hell? Not really funny, I guess, but it was funny at the time. I had a chuckle. Not a nurse, but after I got my wisdom teeth out, I was convinced I was Clark Kent, and kept taking my glasses off and mumbling, I am Superman. And then I cried when they told me they were going to put my teeth in the incinerator because for some reason drugged me thought they meant all my teeth. Am I the only one imagining another person laying next to you whispering, and I am Batman? My dad kept naming members of the Justice League to see what I would say. It turns out I have some very unflattering opinions of Green Lantern. Not a nurse, but I woke up from surgery pissed, because the anesthesiologist told me he was just giving me oxygen, but then next thing I knew I woke up in post-op. I told the nurse that bitch lied to me, and she just said okay, and went to get my parents, LOL. I had a strong dislike of needles or IVs as a teen, so they offered me laughing gas to make it so I didn't care about the needle. I remember them opening my mouth and preparing for surgery, and I was pissed as hell the whole time, because the laughing gas just made my eyes itchy, and I cared very much about the needle, and here they were about to cut my jaw open when I was still awake. Then there was sunshine and a cactus, and then I was in the passenger seat of my mom's car. Apparently they wheeled me out and I briefly came to outside the office, next to their cactus, but I was too drugged up and full of gauze to really say anything at all. I mean, he may have been, losing the few minutes before you go under is pretty common. Very true, I learned that later. At the time I was 14, and it was my first time going under, so I thought my very uncharacteristic anger was interesting faced with tears of joy. Still feel bad for getting mad at the nurse that was just quietly reading a magazine, waiting for me to wake up lol. Drink this juice. Young me. Oh fine, drinks it, falls asleep in under a minute. Me after surgery. Mum, why are you laughing? You told the nurse that she was a naughty girl, and that you would call Dad to punch her. After my spinal surgery, I was talking about how excited I was that Voldemort wanted to marry me. Okay, Bellatrix. All the level 1 general anesthesia patients were snoozing, and in no pain. I was walking by and sneezed. I was almost to the door and heard a subdued voice say, "Bless you." Never did figure out which patient said it, but it was so sweet. Another time it was a coworker wo'd had surgery, and when I went to check on them, they wailed, "I just want everyone to like me." It was funny as hell because it was a doc who used to yell a lot. Not a nurse but my wife, who I have been married to for over a year, came out of oral surgery last week, and decided that was when she was going to tell her mom that she was gay. She said, "Kaylin, I was at the wedding." Gave me a huge laugh. Excuse my narrow outlook on the world, but when I first read this I was like, oh lord, poor guy married someone still in the closet. Then I got the joke, rolling on the floor laughing. Not a nurse, but after her hip surgery my grandma thought she was fighting in the War of 1812. Any spine-tingling stories she had to tell. Was a student nurse for 2 semesters. On a placement in a post-op ward, an old guy had a reaction to the aesthetic, thought he was back in the Korean War, kept trying to get out of bed to help his mates. The 2 nurses couldn't figure out how to stop him, they called security. Meanwhile, I walked up and in my most officious-sounding voice said to the nurse I was partnered with, "Stand down, Lieutenant, I'll take over from here." She looked confused, but moved aside. I said to him, "Soldier, you took some shrapnel. You need to rest and recover, now stand down, or I'll have you court-martialed for insubordination, understood?" He looked at me for a second, looked around, replied nice and loud yes ma'am, and went back to bed. Good thinking on your feet, soldier. More work like that and you'll get that promotion to colonel in no time. This is exactly how to respond to anyone having a hallucination in a situation like this. Do not try and tell them it's not real, you will only make them anxious and angry. Very well done. Amazing improv. Bravo. I can just imagine the face of your co-workers. Wow. You are still with us. Thanks for being such a nice person. As long as you are here, why not like this video and subscribe to our channel? Also, you can press the bell icon, so you won't miss any future uploads.